alerts. Gold Saturn or 4-door.
I wonder why they don't
That's interesting.
buzz me. Maybe
Oh, you got it. You don't get it.
I do, but not now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Hear about the shooting in Nevada yesterday? The
Yeah.
kid got killed and another kid was seriously wounded.
We weren't too far from it.
Really?
You know, he just
Was it just a couple of kids,
I don't know.
gangbangers or something?
The neighbor.
What's going on? Yeah. What is going on in this world? I'm telling you, man.
It's crazy. I tell you, crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see.
It's funny. I called Rick. I said, Rick. He goes, yeah, Bruce. He knows it's me because he's got my identification.
Yeah.
So we'll call you right here. Sure. And I said, no, we will. And he goes, sure. he's a character. He comes across kind of gruff sometimes, but he's actually a good guy. You have to get to know him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he a racist? Someone said that.
Oh, God, not at all. Jesus. No, some of his best friends are African American. Clifford Ray's like one of his bosom buddies.
Got big hands.
Yeah. Exactly. Is that the 339 number that you called?
719?
719.
576.
Oh, it's the other number. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No.
Let me give you another number here. I must have sent you the wrong number. Did I give you another one, or is that the one I gave you?
Hold on. Check here.
Because I got another number. This is the number I called today because he's out here. That's his home phone. I think I sent you this.
Oh, you know, there is another one. 719
339 0155. Yeah, that's it.
That's the cell.
That's his cell. There we go. I don't know why I gave you both. Should be able to get him here.
Yeah. Is this Rick?
Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
It's Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan.
Hey, Rick. How you doing, man? Are you in town, by the way? I think you said you were in town.
I'm actually in the horseshit traffic trying to get across the bridge to get
Oh, yeah.
so that I can do something for the game.
Well, it's a good thing you're leaving now.
Traffic is
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah,
It's brutal.
It's forever to get on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane.
Well, Rick, I left from Marin County yesterday to go to a Sharks game, and it took me and Rich Wolkoff from KGO almost 3 hours to get there.
Oh my gosh.
And we left at 2:30 in the afternoon.
It took me an hour and a half to get to Sunnyvale on a motorcycle.
Oh, that's
splitting
not bad.
lanes.
That's not bad.
No, I was splitting lanes.
Yeah, that's 70 miles from here. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just hang in there, Rick.
The traffic's a little different than when you won the championship 40 years ago, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is why I don't ever want to live in the city. If I come back here, it just reminds me, it's just, okay, never, ever live again.
Yeah. Well, you know about that growing up in the New York area, so you're familiar with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just can't even deal with it. My son just spends 4 hours a day going back and forth.
Oh,
It's awful. Rick, what part of New York did you grow up in? Were you in Jersey, or were you actually in?
No, I grew up in Northeast.
Oh, okay. All right. Nice. Okay.
all right. You ready to get this started? Okay. Grab a
Yeah.
Okay. So. Okay. There we go.
I hope we don't have a problem because it's been a perfect great year, but we'll see.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
All right.
You might, if you're going into the tunnel, sometimes it craps out. But
I'm not going in the tunnel.
Okay.
I know what who knows what's going to happen when I get up in these stairs.
Okay. Here we go.
Here we go.
There we go. Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. You know our show. It's where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Today's show is going to be extra special because of our guest. Who's our guest today?
Yeah, Hall of Famer Rick Barry, one of my personal friends from the old days. We worked together briefly, about 5 years actually, at KMBR, All Sports Radio in San Francisco. Rick has worn a number of hats since he's been into basketball, but he's kept his association with the sport. And we're going to talk about the current NBA of today, and also some of the great moments of his career too. It'll be fun.
You know, we've had Al Laddles on before. He doesn't like to make comparison, but we're going to ask Rick when he comes on the next segment whether he likes to make comparisons.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, at each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. We're going to be giving away a vacation to the first email with the correct answer, and the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, located about 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. And today's trivia theme is just miscellaneous trivia.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Anything else you want to cover before we?
No, just get ready. Get excited about getting a chance to talk some hoops with Rick.
Okay, and then maybe we'll get on to a little Giants.
There you go.
And the Cubs are still
Exciting. Cubs are playing some great baseball.
And in fact, the Giants are what? They won the last.
They won 13 out of 14 as we speak, and that could change.
Of course,
they're hitting the road.
And the Cavs, I think it'll be the Cavs and
probably Cavs and OKC, but you never know.
Yeah.
Don't count the Warriors out.
When we get Rick on in just about another minute here, we're gonna ask him about that. And any injuries updates on anybody?
Nothing.
No,
nothing.
Okay,
we can get into that later.
All right,
let's move.
Okay, this segment of Sports Econ 101 sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 8% secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. You got to check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. I've got them in my IRA, still producing over 8% on a monthly basis. Was that about 0.67% per month? Better in 1 month than you can get in a year in a bank.
Now you got me.
Very good. All right, you're listening to Sports Econ 101. Stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to have Rick Berry on. Thanks, Rick. We just need to do a quick 2-minute that's how Sports Byline does this thing here. So let me just go ahead and save this file.
So the traffic's still pretty awful?
It's moving now on the bridge.
Oh, that's good.
So
what are you in town for? A couple of days, Rick, or just for a quick visit? Or you...
I'm doing something for American Express.
Okay.
Arena.
Okay.
Outside the arena.
Well, and feel free to talk about some of the ventures you're involved with now too, because I think our listeners would find it interesting. What athletes do after they get out of.
I will definitely do that.
Yeah, because we're definitely we're Sports Econ 101, so we love to get the economics of sports. Okay, all right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Bruce, who's on the phone?
Well, we got Rick Berry on the phone, and Rick, of course, played in the NBA for many years, played in the ABA as well, but really had his great moment in sports with the Golden State Warriors in 1974-75 when a team of people that I don't think many had heard of, guys like Charles Dudley and Clifford Ray, and there were Bill Bridges was on that team, and they won the NBA title. They swept the favored Washington Bullets. And Rick, I got to ask you right off the top. I mean, that was 41 years ago, but I would think I was lucky enough. I was just a kid out of college covering that team for a little newspaper, and it still remains embedded in my mind as one of the great moments in Bay Area sports history because of the fact that you guys weren't supposed to do this. As the season wore on and you got further along into the campaign and then into the playoffs, did you kind of sense that something special was going on here?
Well, I knew that the team was going to be better than people thought at the beginning. I knew there was something special when we got over and went to training camp. There's just a great group of guys who all seemed to be on the same page, all committed to trying to be as good as we could be, playing unselfishly. And as the season went on, I knew that we were going to certainly surprise some people. That I think we're going to win the championship? Obviously not. So that's why you have to play the games. You never know what's going to happen, but it was a great group of guys. And as it turned out, I still think to this day it's still the greatest upset in the history of the NBA. There's never been a team that was not supposed to get the playoff team. That not only makes the playoffs, win their division, and they're supposed to get beaten by Chicago. We're supposed to get left in the finals, and we're supposed to sweep us. So it doesn't get more dramatic than that.
It's really something. And as we speak, the current Warriors coming off the second championship was a 40-year drought in between titles, and they were supposed to win it this year. And as we speak, now they could be, well, they're still alive as we speak. They could be eliminated tonight. They could move on and keep this series going. What's your feeling about this current team? Because I know you're watching them from afar, but I'm sure you're still a fan of the Warriors. Do you think they can come back and win this thing against an Oklahoma City team right now that's doing everything right?
Well, it's going to be very difficult for them. They went through the entire season and had a record-setting season. Never had a down period, and they never lost back-to-back games. And unfortunately, right now, they played four very poor basketball games. Bad games at home and two atrocious games on the road. And so they've never been in a situation like this before where they have played so poorly. So whether or not they're able to recoup remains to be seen. And obviously, that's regardless what they can do in the ball game tonight. If they can play their brand of basketball, which they have not done very well so far, and do it for an extended period of time and get a good convincing victory playing their style of basketball, then I think they might have a chance, but it's still going to be extremely difficult to have to go back to Oklahoma City and to have to beat them back there, especially after two just horrible performances they had.
So, Rick, what goes on where a team doesn't play their brand of basketball that's been winning for them during the season?
Well, I think in this case it's been a little bit of a lack of focus, uh, being careless with the basketball, turnovers, many fast shots, not passing and moving the ball like they did, and then it's compounded by having a couple of your star players, Steph and Draymond, not playing all that well, especially in the two games back there in Oklahoma City. Both of them shot exceptionally poorly, had numerous turnovers, and they just played right into the hands of Oklahoma City, who has a lot of people playing exceptionally well, and their two star players are playing very well, especially Westbrook. So that just makes it even more difficult.
And you can talk about injuries, and certainly Steph Curry, most observers have noticed him not at full strength. Draymond Green is banged up. Andrew Bogut is hurting. But that's just the part of the NBA that you got to fight your way through. And I know that when you guys won in 74, 75, you didn't have any major injuries. But I think at that kind of time of the year, you have to kind of suck it up and take it to a different level.
Well, look at Steven Adams. I mean,
yeah.
he should be playing with a helmet on, you know?
Yeah, getting kicked in the groin twice. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is, I guess you have to kind of find that extra reserve, don't you, Rick? Which is not easy to do when you play an 82-game regular season and then you have God knows how many playoff games.
Well, I hear that talk a lot from a lot of different people. I'm not a big believer in that. I don't think that's the factor at all. The factor is that for some reason the NBA allows playoffs to become overly physical, and I think that's a draining factor for you. And if you haven't experienced it before, it could be a major factor. But in the Warriors' case, they've been through it; they know what it's like. Uh, and I just think that it's a matter of mental focus. You just can't lose your focus. You can't stop doing what you did. Get to the point that you are at this point of the season. And the Warriors have lost that for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it's happening on such a large scale is perplexing to me, to be honest with you.
Well, especially since they won last year, and it's interesting because you were mentioning about how your team in 74, 75 had basically the same type of temperament of unselfish basketball. You all played well as a team, and that's kind of what's been carried over to this team. But yet, for some reason, they go to Oklahoma. And, well, actually, it really did start at the home game, the first game they won.
Yeah, I just think, Rick, I don't know what, you're a much more of a close observer of the game than I am because you played it, you understand it a lot more, but it just seems to me that they're playing an Oklahoma City team right now that's peaking at the right time. I mean, they're young, they're fresh, they're strong, they're hungry, they're playing with a lot of energy and a lot of aggressiveness, and sometimes when you run into teams like that, you can be, playing an average game and you're going to get run over. And I'm sure, you guys did the same thing to Washington. They came into that series in the championships in 75, the prohibitive favorite. You won a close game back there, and then you won a couple of close games, but you got them. It seemed like you got them out of their game. And tell me if I'm wrong. And that's kind of what Oklahoma City's done to the Warriors this year.
Yeah, well, they've taken advantage of the Warriors' struggle, and Warriors were lucky to win game number 2.
Yeah.
They only played about 15 minutes of basketball. It's just that Oklahoma City had a really poor game in that one, and the Warriors didn't play as poorly the remaining part of the game as they did in game number 1. They almost got another victory. But then in Oklahoma City, they didn't do anything. I mean, they didn't even come close to playing 15 minutes of basketball on both ends of the court. And Horford played incredibly hot in the third quarter. That game would have been even more embarrassing.
Yeah. What do you remember most about, you talk about that team of 74, 75, and again, we who have been around here in the Bay Area for a long time draw comparisons with the current team, not so much because of the style of play, but everybody's different. But the temperament, the all-for-one, one-for-all attitude that Al Attles, that your coach, embodied, and Steve Kerr seems to be sort of almost the same kind of philosophy, doesn't he, as Al Attles?
Yeah, he does, and he's willing to play a lot of people as well. So the similarities between the championship team of last year and what they've done this year and our team is pretty remarkable. I actually wrote a column about it when I was writing for the Examiner last year. And there are a great deal of similarities between the two, but there's things going on here that I don't understand. Is that why guys want to try to do things differently than what they the success that they had. It happened to us. We try to. It happened to us in the final game, Game 7 of the Western Conference.
And then the following year, when you had a better record, actually.
We went away from playing the kind of basketball that we normally play. We blew a game out in Phoenix that we should have won in Game 6 to go to the finals again. And we came home and we didn't play Warriors basketball. And it cost us. And we wound up losing the close game and missing out on an opportunity to be I'm defending champion. So, and that really heats in my crawl because I think we would have beaten Boston without any question in my mind. They match up really well against us. And I think we could have beaten them. And the Phoenix probably could have too, except they got hosed in that triple overtime game with Richie Powers. I just actually NBA TV. Richie Powers chose to ignore the time average of Paul Silas. Would have been a technical foul. And then Paul Wetzel made that. They would have won that. It's just crazy what goes on in the world of basketball.
Rick Barry's still upset about it after 40 years, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you, man.
All right, hold on, Rick. We're gonna go to our first commercial break here, and we're gonna ask this question. And if you know the answer, don't say anything yet because we'll let you answer when we come back from break. All right. We'll start off with a basketball question here. Who is the only player from the losing team to win the MVP award in the NBA Finals?
Ooh, good
right?
question.
The
Yeah.
first email with the correct answer will win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at that Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. Who is the only player from the losing team to win the MVP award in the NBA Finals? All right? Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101 with Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan and our guest, Rick Barry from the 74-75 Golden State Warriors. All right, so let me just save this file here.
I remember that, but I remember the incident, but I don't remember the name. Does that one sound familiar to you, Rick? You remember the MVP who was on the losing team?
Jerry West.
Was it really?
It
Well, that
was.
doesn't surprise me then.
Very good.
So yeah, because they lost about 4 or 5 before they finally won it with Wilt in '72, I guess it was, when they had that 33-game winning streak.
A force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Now you came back the following year and started playing with the Warriors. Wasn't it '72, '73, the year after the Lakers had that great year? I think it was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's going back a few years.
Save this file.
Yeah.
I would like to ask him too about the finals with Al Attles getting kicked out and trying to.
Oh yeah. We've talked about that. Yeah, that was an amazing. You see? Are you going to see Al at the game tonight, Rick?
Yeah, well, I hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be around. He's at every game.
All right, here we go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Bruce McGowan. When we get to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Who is the only player from the losing team to win the MVP award in the NBA Finals? And our guest on the phone is Rick Barry. And Rick, you know the answer.
Yeah, it was Jerry West. I would have to say that. I think he was the award. Somebody was on the loss, but it was Jerry.
It was Jerry, 1969.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they lost to the Celtics. That was Bill Russell's last championship, as a matter of fact. Bill retired after that. Yeah. He was a player coach on that team. And we're talking to Rick Barry, NBA Hall of Famer. I want to talk about the here and the now also, but I just remember how much fun it must have been for you, Rick, to play in the old ABA, which lasted about 10 years and had the red, white, and blue basketball and started the three-point line, and Dr. J was in that league. And there were some really good players in that league. John Brisker, I remember the muscular forward with the Pittsburgh Condors who disappeared in Africa and they never found the guy. I mean, there were some great players from the Utah team. What was that like playing in the ABA, jumping from the established league to this new upstart league in the late 1960s?
It was no bargain, I can tell you that. Sometimes later, more people think on the benches and that's the board table than were in the stands. It was an up-tempo kind of game. It was more of a guard-oriented outside team. Didn't have a lot of great teams. And eventually they got big ones like Arden Gilmore and players like that. And but yeah, no, it was crazy. It was a crazy league, and I had to do it over again. And I can be in the same position I'm in now, and have everything I have going on in my life, and without question, would have not gone over to the ABA or stayed in the NBA.
Was it just a matter of money and opportunity? Because I know the Warriors, you had played for the Warriors for a couple of years, and you had 2 great years, and maybe Franklin Muley couldn't give you, what the ABA was offering, or what was it that gave you the incentive to jump across to the Oakland Oaks of the ABA?
Nothing to do with money. I could have gotten more money or just as much money than the Warriors. It was that we almost won the championship in '67. I was MVP of the All-Star game that year. I led the league in scoring. We came within 2 plays of beating one of the great teams in history of the league, the 76ers, with Galen and Cunningham and Larry Costello and Jackson. And I didn't have a lot of fun. It was not fun for me. And I rest his soul. I liked him as a person. Bill Garman was not an easy guy to play with for me because he just made it like a job. And basketball has never been a job for me. It was fun. No days began playing the game, and I had a chance to possibly go over and play for my then father-in-law, who was my former college coach, and it had nothing to do with money.
Just a comfort zone situation.
I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to have fun playing basketball.
Well, and you were a young guy. You were just getting into your career. You'd had a great start to your career, and I can't say I blame you. I know you were kind of vilified for it, but it kind of legitimized it helped to legitimize the ABA, and in an actuality, I think it made the ABA stronger down the road, because when the ABA did merge with the NBA, they brought three of the best teams and all the top players, and it made the NBA stronger than ever. So maybe it was
great to give an opportunity for so many players to get a chance to actually play and earn a living, and other people working in different fields of endeavor, as far as publicists and office personnel and what have you. So it was great for the game of basketball to have that and have the competition going on, and it certainly changed the whole dynamic of the game. And to be honest with you, I mean, nobody would hardly ever talk about everything. They keep talking about what Spencer Haywood did, and in baseball, Kurt Flood. I was Kurt Flood before Kurt Flood. I challenged the NBA's contract. The NBA's contract was a reserve clause, just like baseball. And I went in there, and they took the position that it was a reserve, that it was an option clause, and it changed everything. It gave players the opportunity to basically play out their option and go someplace else and not be locked into one team. So it was a dramatic change in the history of basketball. Forget nobody ever talks about that.
The ABA wasn't exactly like the USFL. How they kind of had that own league and then kind of merged, and it's more almost like the old baseball.
It reminds me in some respects of the old AFL, which challenged the NFL and again made the other league better. I got to ask you, what are you up to these days, Rick? Because I've known you for some time, and I know you've worn a lot of hats. You've done a lot of different things. You've gotten into broadcasting. You were a talk show host at the station I worked at for a long time, doing sports talk radio. And are you doing any radio at all, or are you strictly out of the media and strictly into private business now?
No, I'm doing a lot of different things in the business world. I still try to work and do things, because you forgot those 3 zeros on my contract.
Yeah.
About $15 million. So I still have to try to work for a living, which I have a lot of fun doing. A lot of different things. Or a company called Papa Sands, which is an amazing product that makes two different products that now called Papa Clean and Papa Side. It gets rid of all the toxic chemicals that all these people use to clean buildings and arenas and gyms and what have you, and schools. I mean, this is a great product, and so I'm really excited about that one. Then I used to work for a company called Hydrus. In fact, if people are interested, most people walk around don't even realize that they're dehydrated. That's just a world. And when your body is not hydrated, your body doesn't function like it was meant to function. As a result, you have a lot of ailments and things that are bothering you that probably could be cured if you just got yourself hydrated.
That's the thing. A lot of people do. They got to drink.
Hydrus Performance, HYDRUS Performance.com. You can read about it, learn about it, see all the tests that's done. It's a concentrate. They have a little package you can travel with. Aerosol, pour it into a half-liter bottle, and you're ready to go. And they have other bottles that are concentrate to put it in larger size containers. But it's a great product, and 24 in the promo code, people can get a discount on anything that they purchase. And they've got flavors that it has no sugar in it. It's absolutely a fantastic product. So those are just a couple of the things that I'm doing and working on. And I'm trying to help my son Scooter, who has amazing technology with the company Vibrato, that has a product called Solid Shot. It's a shooting sleeve that's the greatest teaching tool I've ever seen in my life, with sophisticated sensors. Some college teams and pro teams are already using it. It's going to hopefully eventually, once they raise money that they're going after now, put it into the commercial end so that people can buy it. The kid goes to camp and spends $400 or $500 at the camp for 5 days. Comes home, he forgets everything. This way, he's got a sleeve for a lot less than that when they get it down to the right price that they can have, and use that to help teach them how to shoot the basketball, which is something that most kids need to learn how to do. But it's an amazing product, again, called Solid Shot, and hopefully that'll be out in the commercial market soon. So I'm doing a lot of different things, and then I try to make enough money to subsidize my fishing habit, because that's what I really enjoy doing, fly fishing and go fishing with Clifford Ray and Ray Floyd, the Hall of Fame golfer, a buddy of mine, just got back from the Bahamas doing bone fishing for the first time. Got my first bonefish. That was kind of fun. And going to go up to Canada with them and fish for Atlantic salmon, then going to Alaska with Clifford and Raymond later this summer, and up to Montana. Just trying to enjoy life as much as possible, and fortunate enough to be blessed with good health.
Yeah,
if you like some bass fishing, that Lighthouse Resort, where you answered the question correctly, We'll make sure that you can stay over there and you can do some bass fishing.
I was going to say, Rick, you.
Yeah. I'm all up anytime I get a chance to fishing, and I have to pay a fortune for it. In fact, my wife loves it when I can put trips together and have people go with me and all. But otherwise, it can get expensive doing the fishing. But I actually love it, and it's hard for me to believe that that would be my new passion in life. But fly fishing is a lot different than regular fishing.
Yeah.
You're always active. You're doing something you can skill, and it's pretty interesting. That the better I've gotten, the more fish I get. When I go to Alaska, up to Rainbow River Lodge or it's Lodge, Iliamba River Lodge, I hook 100 or more fish on a regular.
Wow.
I gotta learn how to do that fly fishing because you don't get stinky with the bait, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah, no, you don't have any bait at all.
Yeah.
Just
Fly.
Yeah. It's an amazing sport and just a whole lot of fun. And you're out in God the country, middle of nowhere, and you see all the animals. And I'm fishing. I got bears walking 15 feet from me sometimes. It's amazing.
And they're saying, "Hey, Rick, I liked your jump shot. You're okay in my book. I'm not going to take it."
Exactly.
If anybody wants to check out my fishing stuff, I go to Mexico with a buddy of mine too. I do stuff down there. But go to rickberry24.com. Rickberry24.com.
That'll be fun.
Hey, guys, I didn't realize that you have your own website. That is cool.
Hey, I was going to ask you really quickly about the hydration because my wife had told me that she used to do figure competition and all this stuff, and she basically says that once you get thirsty, it's already too late. You got to be drinking
That's right.
before. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so she's not lying to me.
You should be drinking on a regular basis. And then if people go up in altitude like where I live in Colorado, it's not good.
Yeah, that's interesting. You bring up that the hydration thing as you were doing it. Edward's always got a glass. He's always got a bottle of water here, and he's drinking away. And I'm going, oh yeah, now I get it.
It's always kind of tough because sometimes I have to take a break to go to the bathroom in between the sets.
You're drinking so much water. Oh my goodness.
So hey, let's talk about one more thing, and then when we come back, if you have any time, Rick, I do want to talk to you about. We've had Al on the show a few times, and every once in a while, Bruce will ask him about. I guess it was the final game.
The final game of the championship. He got kicked out by Richie Powers.
Yeah. Because the whole idea was, hey, Rick's a marked man.
Yeah. We got to tell that story. Rick can tell the story from his perspective.
Yeah, that was really cool. So we got about 30 seconds before we have to go to our commercial trivia question. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Well, I was just going to say, Rick, you've seen a lot of teams come from behind, down 3 games to 1. There haven't been, there have been 9 teams that have done it, so it's not a lot of teams. But, what does it take to come back from that kind of a deficit if you played as badly as the current Warriors have against OKC?
Oh, obviously, I think it's only 9 teams that have done it, like 108 or 80 teams. It's a very, very small percentage have been able to do it. So basically, this takes going out, in this case for the Warriors, going out and going back to playing their brand of basketball for extended periods of time. And on both ends of the court, when I say Warriors basketball, I'm talking about having the offense working along with the defense working simultaneously. They do that, or even in this situation, if they get, I say 36 minutes. In this case, I think if they did it for 30 minutes, they could wind up winning easily. But they haven't even come close to doing that. So that's what it's going to take. And take them doing that 3 consecutive games. So the Oklahoma City team is playing exceptionally well. So
they are. Hey, Rick, stay with us.
That's a heck of a pass.
Stay with us. Okay. Here's our next commercial break trivia question. To date, and I hope this one's accurate. To date, who is the only Major League Baseball player to win both the Rookie of the Year and Cy Young Award in the same year?
I know that one.
You know that one?
Yeah, and I think Rick knows. Rick knows the guy who did it.
Okay. Well, hold on. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
I think it was Vida Blue, wasn't it?
Guess on the air.
Actually, the Vida might have played a year before, though. That's a good one. Rick, do you remember Vida? I know Vida won won the Cy Young. Did he win the Rookie of the Year that same year? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow baseball that close.
Yeah. Do you know Vida very well? You run into him once in a while?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, good guy.
Rick, do you ever get called to do any kind of like pep talks for the Warriors with stuff like this?
No.
No.
Well, you were doing a few things with him a few years back, but you're pretty much not involved with him.
They occasionally ask me to do a few. Whatever, but they don't do anything where you ask me to do anything where I'm getting paid or anything.
I thought Rick did something really nice. Well, what I thought you did that was real nice was when Joe Lacob was getting booed that time because I guess they made a trade that was unpopular. Yeah. Rick got on the microphone and said, "Hey, come on, this guy."
I was there. I remember that.
That was kind of classic, Rick, for you to do to that.
Okay.
And he really
proved to be prophetic.
Yes, it did. It did.
I told people, I said, guys are doing the right thing. And
Monte Ellis, right?
They were rooting for I mean, that was Christmas night.
Yeah.
Time to do it. It was just a few thousand of young men, bunch of idiots.
Yeah,
And,
just didn't know they were thinking with their hearts instead
No,
of
exactly. And
Yeah.
as I said,
I think it was
the more
I think,
tattoos a guy gets.
well, I think it was
the worse
Monte
it
Ellis.
gets.
I think it was
Yeah,
Monte Ellis. They
Ellis.
traded away.
Yeah.
They didn't like that.
They didn't like that,
That's
exactly.
because they wanted to play with Curry. They wanted Curry to be the leader.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Second trivia question. To date, who is the only Major League Baseball player to win both the Rookie of the Year and Cy Young Award in the same year?
I'm going to say Vida Blue, but I think I'm
That was
wrong.
after him.
It's after him.
Yeah.
Later in the 70s? What year?
Early 80s.
Early 80s. Wow, I'm stumped.
Fernando Valenzuela.
Oh, of course. Yeah, Fernando Mania. And he did it the year of the strike.
Yeah, he won.
So that's why it wasn't a big deal. I mean, it was a big deal, but it wasn't as big a deal because he didn't rack up
That's
20 wins or something.
That's a good point.
Anyway.
Okay, so we have Rick Barry, Hall of Fame basketball player, on the line. And Rick, one of the questions I want to ask you again, because we've had Al Attles on a few times, and he's talked about how in the championship series with the Washington Bullets, how you were a marked man. I don't know if were you a marked man from game one, or was it starting to get into game 3 and 4?
No, I just think because they were panicked. They knew that they were in big trouble, and they figured that, if they could get in the fight, they'd have a chance to win the game. And so that's what it was. And it started at Rick hit me with an elbow in the first ball. And so I said, oh, okay, this is what it's going to be like. So I knew what he was doing, and I wasn't going to get suckered into that.
And the game's changed quite a bit since then. You don't, I don't know.
Well, you don't see those any kind of fights there. I remember seeing a fight, Rick. I was covering a game in 1981 at the Spectrum in Philly when I was working in radio network sports in New York, and it was the Eastern Conference Finals, Boston against Philly. Very emotional series. Boston came back from something like 18 points down, and somebody threw a beer at Cedric Maxwell, and he literally went into the stands and beat this fan senseless. I mean,
he knew which fan it was?
He knew which fan it was. He pummeled him, and then when his buddy came over, and he popped him too, and continued playing. So they let some of that stuff go, and I guess what happened as a result of Reardon attacking you, they didn't call Reardon for a foul, but they called Al out. They kicked Al Attles out of the game because Al came onto the floor to try to get the attention away from you, and in doing so, I guess Wes Unseld grabbed him, and they started tangling, and then Richie Powers kicked him out of the game and charged him with a technical, which was just an egregious mistake. And I know that you were the players, but I think that kind of fired you guys up a little, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was Al came out to try to prevent me from getting me, getting thrown out of the game, and so it was stupid for Richie to throw him out of the game. But that's the way it goes. I'm trying to get into the lot here because these guys are, guys in the arena. So
okay.
Hey, listen, we really appreciate you being on, Rick.
Thanks for spending all this time with us, Rick. Okay.
We'll
I'm getting into the lot right now. Hey, I got a trivia question.
Okay.
This is a great one. So, who's the only woman in the history of NCAA basketball Division I to be an academic All-America first team? Have a son who was Division I academic All-America first team in men's basketball. That would be my wife, Lynn, my youngest son, Canyon, who got that distinction this year.
All right,
good for you.
Good deal. I was wondering about your son, your young son, because he's no longer a young son. He's a college student now, huh?
Well, he graduated and he became a free agent. He had all kinds of teams after him, and he's going to play his last year at the University of Florida next year for Mike White. So it's going to be exciting to see what he's able to do. But anyway, it's always good to talk to you guys. I appreciate it, and go Warriors.
Yeah,
thanks,
definitely.
Rick. Really appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much, Rick.
All right.
Yeah, Rick has got to be.
Bye-bye.
I was going to say, Rick has got to be the leader in producing athletes because he has, I believe he had 4 sons with his first wife, and 3 of them played, I believe 3 of them played in the NBA. I know Scooter and Brent did, and I think there was one other that played. John. Yeah, that's right. Oh, no, Scooter did. Scooter made it to the training camp, but John and Brent were both pretty good players.
Yeah, John went on to
television.
Yeah.
He was, he played with Sacramento, I think his last couple of years. Brent was probably a little bit better. He played with the Clippers. They weren't like their dad, but just to follow in their dad's footsteps and play in the NBA and play for several years, that's quite something. And now he's got another son. Rick is an amazing athlete. I played in a softball game with Rick, and Rick can play any sport probably better than just about anybody out there. He's just one of those. You know how some people are just natural athletes, and he was one of the few guys who, I guess Wilt Chamberlain was the other one who flipped the ball up underhanded. When he was at the foul line. The reason he did that, he said it was much easier. And he tells me to this day, he says the guys who struggle at the line should learn how to do that because it's really a lot easier.
You should be teaching them.
I think so. Here's the deal, and I didn't mention this to Rick because it's kind of a sore spot, and maybe we could have talked to him about it. Maybe when we get him on again, we will talk to him about it. I think Rick Barry could have been a terrific pro coach. He was a good minor league coach, and his teams did very well. But Rick, if you kind of had the feeling, if you listen to some of the comments he made, he's what I would call a contrarian. You say something's brown, he says it's blue. You say the day is warm, he says it's cold. And Rick is usually, he likes to argue, but he's usually right. That's the problem.
Yeah, are you telling me it's not cold outside?
Yeah, well, and nobody likes to be reminded that they're wrong. So because of that, people seem to think that Rick is a bad guy, but he's one of the best guys around. And again, I'm prejudiced because I've known him for many, many years off and on. We worked together for 5 years, but a great guy, a good friend, and just a terrific athlete. And of course, his legacy will stay here in the Bay Area forever because he led the Warriors to their first NBA championship.
Well, he definitely is a good tactician.
Yeah, he knew how to. I think he appreciates the way and we didn't talk about this either, but you and I have talked about this. The way the Warriors play today is very much like the way basketball was played, generally speaking, in the NBA in the 1970s, even up into the 80s, and it kind of changed in the 90s with Michael Jordan. Not because of any fault of Michael Jordan, but it was because he was so good. Kids wanted to be like Mike. You remember that? Like Mike?
Yeah.
And so there was a lot more one-on-one. And that takes away from the game. One-on-one is fun to watch if it's, just a street game. But if it's an NBA game, I don't think it's fun to watch at all.
Well, it's amazing how many games are lost by a team when a guy scores 50 points.
Yeah.
Again, it reminds you it's a team game.
Yeah. Well, you can have a guy take over a game and score 50, or you can have a guy, they just keep feeding the ball. He's trying to score, and it's not going to work. It is a team game. I mean, you have to have the stars to play the game. The Warriors, one of the reasons they're losing right now is Steph Curry's not playing that well, but he's also hurting.
But you also notice Klay Thompson. You could just watch him, even again on television, watching him. He didn't have the confidence. Suddenly, when he started hitting, you could just see it in his face. It was like, okay, now I'm on track. And then he started hitting, boom, boom, boom.
You have to get the confidence. You have to be successful. To be successful, you have to be focused. To be focused, you have to be. There's all these things that have to be in place, and I think several of them fell out of place for the Warriors. And then on top of that, to complicate things, you're playing a darn good team that's
very good.
Young and strong, and they got length, and they've got athleticism, and they've got a great bench. I don't think they're as deep as the Warriors or as smart. Or if over the course of the year, I think the Warriors would beat them. They did during the regular season, but right now they're playing the best basketball, and the Warriors are not. And the Warriors, I think, also not to make excuses, but I think I guarantee you, if Steph Curry and Andrew Bogut and Draymond Green were at full strength, I think they would be in this series by a long shot.
Well, when you're shooting, 38% or something,
awful.
And you've got to get those offensive rebounds.
And you're not getting the rebounds.
But partly you're not because you got a couple of twin towers there.
Well, and also another reason is the Warriors have been dropping back on defense because they're so afraid of getting beat in the transition game, which has happened to them. So it's
usually that's one of the strengths that they have.
They've had a good defense, but right now Oklahoma City, I think also Oklahoma City is like a golfer who's hitting every shot, or a baseball player. The other day I was reading a story about Giancarlo Stanton, the great slugger with Florida. I don't know if you heard this story. He struck out something like 48 times out of 80 at bats. Something ridiculous. Maybe it wasn't that many, but
this year.
Yeah, it was early in the season. He was having, I think it was 24 strikeouts in 32 at bats. And the other 8 at bats, he grounded out. Just was in a horrible, horrible slump. But then you get some guy who, hits a grand slam and a 2-run double, and the next day he hits 3 more doubles, and so you get those hot streaks, and you got to ride it. Right now, Oklahoma is riding it. I don't think if it was up to them, I think they would have played a day right after the fourth game and kept the thing going. You don't want to stop.
Well, wasn't it Willie Mays 1 for 17 or something?
Willie Mays was hitless in his first 12 times at the plate, and his first hit was a home run over the roof at the Polo Grounds.
That'll give you a little confidence. Not center field though.
Got a great quote. Here's a great quote about Willie Mays. Monty Irvin, who was kind of like an older brother to him. Monty was one of the first African American player to play with the New York Giants. And when Willie made his great catch against Vic Wertz in the '54 series, the ball that's been, it's turned into sort of a mythic kind of a play where he caught it in the deepest part of the ballpark at about 460 feet from home plate.
No more than that, I think.
480. Was it 505? So 480.
Yeah, because 505 must have been 480.
Yeah, I mean, not only that's an incredible home run, but he hit it, unfortunately, the deepest part of the park, and Willie had time to get back there and make the catch. And Willie's coming in, and Monty Irvin says to him, geez, Willie, I didn't think you were going to get to that ball. And Willie kind of laughed. He goes, what are you talking about? I had it all the way. And that's
and he probably did. I mean, I think he was just being
no, he wasn't being snotty or kidding around. I mean, he really. You have to believe you can do that. The great ones make those plays.
So I'm wondering, why did he fall down at the end? He somehow twisted.
Well, he actually, it's interesting. If you watch the film, he catches the ball, then he spins around and makes this incredible throw, and he put so much into it that he lost his balance and fell forward.
Yeah.
And you see him kind of propping himself up to make sure that the two runners, Al Rosen, who later became the general manager of the Giants, was on base for Cleveland, and he had to hustle to get back to first. Barely made it back. Almost a double play.
I'll bet he probably rounded second.
He did.
Yeah, so he had to go back and touch second.
Got to go back and touch second, and Willie almost threw him out. It seems I love these crazy plays though. The other day I was at a Giants game, and Hunter Pence comes out as a pinch hitter. He'd been struggling with a hamstring problem, and said he could maybe give the Giants one at bat late in the game. So they had a runner at first base who was pretty slow-footed, Brandon Belt. And Hunter hits this high, towering fly ball in the short right field. The second baseman goes back, and the right fielder, Matt Kemp, is charging in. So the second baseman, just immediately backs off. And this sudden gust of wind, kind of like Candlestick, comes along and just moves the ball just a little bit. Just out of Kemp's reach, it drops. And, of course, Belt is running on the plate because there's two out, and he's slow-footed, but he makes it home with ease. One of those crazy plays. It was the game-winning play. The game was over. Yeah, bottom of the ninth.
That was awesome.
When you're going good, that's what happens.
So 13 out of 14.
Yeah.
Okay, here we're going to cut to our last commercial break trivia question here. How many times did it take Joe DiMaggio to get elected into the Hall of Fame?
Good question.
One would think it would have been
right away.
Yeah. The first email, wouldn't that be funny if it was? And it's a trick question.
Yeah.
Okay, the first email with the correct answer is going to win that free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. How many times did it take Joe DiMaggio to get elected to the Hall of Fame? Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
I had no idea it would take more than one for him.
I know, you would think.
Yeah, wow. Unless that's a trick question.
Unless it's a trick question.
Yeah. But I don't think you'd put it out there.
Probably
that's
not.
A trick question. No. No, that's a good one. To think about that, I'll just take a wild guess.
So, we got 13 minutes. What would you like to cover?
Hey, talk a little baseball.
Yeah.
Just kind of general baseball. Go around the league. The Yankees are playing better. Phillies have been a surprise. National League West sucks. Outside of the Giants, I mean, even the Dodgers are not that good.
Yeah, they kept switching with Colorado.
And then Jake Arrieta, what a great start. What at 9-0 last you saw. He gave up like 6 runs or 5 runs yesterday, but he won the game. So that's all that matters.
That happens.
ERA is still under 2.
Even
after those 5.
Why do they have PD? He must be a fun guy to have around the club.
Well, he pitched really well yesterday.
He did, but
I think it's because they don't have anybody else. They could have kept Lincecum, but they didn't want to do that. Yeah. I don't know why.
Where's Lincecum now?
He's with the Angels AAA team.
AAA.
Yeah, he'll come up in about a month or 3 weeks. He never went to spring training, so he's got to get in shape and get his arm kind of loose. It's a good pickup for them. I think he'll help.
Yeah.
Him. He's got plenty left in the tank. His arm is never been an issue.
Hip
never.
surgery, right?
Hip surgery.
Well, that's kind of young man.
Yeah. He takes that weird stride.
Yeah. We'll do it. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the last trivia question, here was the last trivia question. How many times did it take Joe DiMaggio to get elected into the Hall of Fame?
Well, I would say I would have thought he would have been elected unanimously the first time, but obviously if you ask that question, that didn't happen. So I'm going to say twice.
0. He's not in the Hall of Fame. No, I'm just kidding. I saw the eyebrows.
I know he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he is.
Yes.
It took in his third,
really?
1955, his third year of
eligibility. Really? That's amazing. Joe, I mean, you look at the numbers. Now, he only played for 12 years because the war took 3 years away, but his numbers
is enough.
Yeah, I think he had 379. He batted 335. I mean, come on.
I mean, it's not like Gale Sayers who played 6 years or something.
I think Joe DiMaggio in his life struck out like 127 times, and that's in like 13 years. He struck out an average of about 12 times a year. One year, I think he struck out like 8 times. Can you imagine that? That means you're putting the ball in play, giving yourself a chance. Almost every time.
Like Ted Williams also had a good eye.
Oh, God.
And I think sometimes the umpires just at some point they just know that a guy has a good eye, and so it's like if it's close, they'll go, no, he would have swung at it.
I hate to say it, there is a double standard. It's normal, and it's not that they're trying to give the great players an extra edge because they don't need it, but they know also that the great players, the great hitters, have a good eye and are not going to be fooled most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. I mean, you think about it, hitting is even the best hitters, 70% of the time fail.
Yeah.
7 times out of 10. So
DiMaggio started in 36.
36.
And and that's also what's so surprising about this is, Willie Mays hadn't played yet. So
No.
again, a lot of times I think they do make comparisons.
Oh, sure.
So, right. So theoretically, it should be harder to get in the Hall of Fame now than it was back then.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm surprised. Again, I'm surprised. And again, maybe the standards were higher then. I don't know. Maybe there was resentment because Joe only played 13 years, but I mean, he was an All-Star like 11 times.
13. I mean, that's still
13
a long
years.
time.
Well, it would have been 6. Like I said, it would have been
No,
16.
16. I know, but I mean, it's not like
Yeah,
and
and he
guys
could.
played 20 years.
Well, he could have played another 4 or 5, but he just was tired of playing. He had other business interests, and he was 36, and he was. I mean, they won the championship how many times?
Yeah.
All those great teams.
Also, he probably wanted to end up on top, which is really hard to do, but it's really smart.
Well, in '51 they did. They won. His last time was Willie Mays' rookie year. They played against each other, the Yankees and Giants, and the Yankees won it that year. And interestingly enough, the next year, Joe met the year after he got out of baseball. He met Marilyn Monroe, and they were.
That'll take your mind off baseball.
They were together only 10 years, but Joe put a red rose on her crypt once a week, or had somebody do it for him if he couldn't do it himself, every year from 1962 when she died until 1987, 25 years. That's true love.
They were divorced, though.
They were divorced very early. And Joe wanted her to lead a kind of a quiet, unassuming life, and that wasn't for Marilyn. Marilyn was, she was into the crowd, she was into the glitter, and she wanted to. I mean, I live in a little sleepy town in Marin County called Fairfax, and Joe had some friends there back in the 1950s, and they lent him a real nice home just down the road from where I live, and Joe moved Marilyn into that home. There's a big story about it in Fairfax where I live, and they talk about it all the time. And Marilyn Monroe just felt like she was so isolated and cut off, and she got depressed. And within a couple of weeks, she had to move out, and they moved back into the city, because that was more action in the city. More things to do.
I guess.
In San Francisco.
If I would have wanted to be in New York, not San Francisco.
Well, she was kind of a West Coast girl. I think I believe she was raised in Southern California.
Yeah, that's true.
And another interesting little relation that I have secondhand to Marilyn Monroe is my wife's grandmother worked in a munitions factory as a young woman, and Marilyn Monroe was in that factory also working for the summer, and she was just 18 or 17 years old at the time. And this is right in the middle of the war. He said it was really tough. There were some guys that were working in there also, and really tough because she was so stunningly beautiful, and all the women were just, staring at her, and all the men were staring at her, and the poor thing. Can you imagine having people stare at you all the time?
I got that problem all the time, my friend.
But I mean, seriously, and I mean,
Norma Jean.
Yeah, I mean, Norma Jean Baker, and if you didn't, even if you had a good feeling about who you were, I mean, how would you feel about that? Would it skew how your perception of yourself? So not to get off on a tangent, but I think Joe DiMaggio made the unenviable mistake of getting involved with a woman who just wasn't very, stable, and it was too bad.
That's remember that song? If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, never make a pretty woman your wife.
No, never heard that one. Well, I made a pretty woman my wife 22 years ago, and we're still happy. So I'm not complaining.
Me too. I did too.
So that's not true.
So if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, get an ugly woman to marry.
Yeah, right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
They call it a two-bagger, right?
Yeah.
In case the first one breaks.
Oh boy, yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
Sure. All right, so talking a little baseball here. The Dodgers are kind of flailing a little bit. Colorado.
The National League West is not very good. I mean, the fact that the Giants.
Will anybody win it?
Yeah, the way the Giants are playing right now, they're starting pitching and their all-star infield, which has probably the best shortstop in the National League, and Brandon Crawford, and one of the best young second basemen, Joe Panik, pretty good third baseman in Matt Duffy, and a very underrated first baseman, not only hitting but fielding, and Brandon Belt. I just don't see anybody beating the Giants in that division. Maybe the Dodgers will challenge them, but the Dodgers don't have enough pitching after Kershaw, and then the rest of the division. Edward is horrible. I mean, the Giants beat the San Diego Padres 8 times already. Yeah. They've beaten the Rockies. Now the Rockies had some trouble with the Rockies, but the Rockies are not very good. Arizona's not very good.
Can't carry the whole thing.
No. And again, I think the teams to watch are Chicago, St. Louis, Washington, the Mets, and the Giants.
Actually, it's both Chicago teams.
Well, I'm in the National League.
Yeah,
In the American League, yeah, definitely. The White Sox have been a big surprise this year, and I don't think anybody could see that. It's really interesting. The two best pitchers in baseball right now pitch for Chicago. The left-hander on the south side, Chris Sale. The right-hander on the north side, Jake Arrieta.
I think the only people who are not going to root for the Cubs are Mets and
White Sox
Pittsburgh
and White Sox fans. If
well,
you go,
that's true.
If you go to Chicago, I was surprised. They never, they play each other in interleague games, but it's like they hate each other. And why? I mean, it's like when I
South Side with Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, but I still, I mean, when I hear Giants and A's fans complain about each other, I always think, why? You're not in the same division. You hardly ever play each other. Only 4 times a year. Why do you hate them? I think it's just jealousy sometimes.
Well, and it's not the players, right? It's the
fans. The fan. Oh, the players don't care. The players could care less.
It's the same thing with Raiders and 49ers. It's
It's
like I don't get it. You're supposed to be a Bay Area. In fact, I mean, it's funny because I'll root for a California team if it's in, let's say, the World Series. I mean, it's funny.
I will not root. I will never root for a team from Southern California, ever.
Well, I'm so upset of the 2002 World Series.
Oh yeah. But if you're somebody listening to this show in the New York area, you're probably looking at us or listening and kind of cocking your head and going, "What are you talking about?" Because New York fans, you either love the Giants or you love the Jets. You don't love both. You either love the Yankees or you love the Mets, but you don't love both.
But they don't have as much hate. Like if you're a Mets fan,
Mets fans do not like Yankee fans.
But I don't know if it's back.
No, Yankee fans are kind of like, have always been sort of up on their high horse.
Yeah.
We don't hate. We don't have to hate. We're so much better than you are.
That's right.
But they're not very good. But actually, they've played pretty well this year. But I don't know how long that's going to last.
And does Kansas City and St. Louis have that issue?
No, not really. Not really. No, they're in the
World Series.
Yeah, except for the '85 World Series and Joaquin Andahar going crazy and getting kicked out of that game.
That's right.
Kansas City. They're an intriguing story. They're starting to play better ball now. So. But I'd say the National League is a little easier to figure out. The Dodgers will make a move and they'll challenge, but it's the Dodgers, Giants, Cubs, Cardinals, Mets, and Washington. You got 2 teams in each division. American League, I don't know if it's quite so cut and dry. Seattle is leading the American League West, and I'm surprised. Where in the heck did they come from?
Yeah.
They got a couple of good players, but that's about it.
And maybe it's just a bad division also.
Maybe it's a bad division. Maybe they're just off to a freakish year. The thing that cracks me up the most is the Texas Rangers, who built this beautiful new stadium in 1994, now want to build an indoor stadium where one with a retractable roof because it's too hot. They didn't figure that out 22 years ago that it was too hot. Why did they build it then?
Well, let's see. The Houston Colt 45s changed to the Astrodome for the Astros.
And then they moved outside. And they played out, and I guess they don't have a dome. I don't think.
They used to once they got rid of the Astrodome.
Yeah.
But
I mean, now that they're
built it because it gets hot in Texas.
Yeah, no question. I went to a couple of games down there with the Giants, and that was a bizarre kind of a atmosphere, to say the least. Very strange.
It was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because it was the first dome stadium, but it was just strange. I remember the thing I liked about it most is the Giants swept the Astros. It was in 1993 when the Giants won 103 games, and they hit 9 home runs in the series and just beat bumps on them. And Houston was a pretty good team that year. Houston had won a title, a National League West title a few years before, so they were pretty good. They weren't a bad team.
Yeah. But was the Astrodome a good hitter's park?
Actually, no, it was not. The ball, it was
so.
kind of a dead. It was kind of a pitcher's park. But at that particular weekend, boy, it sure was. I think the Giants hit 9 home runs in that series, and Will Clark hit about 3 of them. Will Clark loved hitting. He hit his first ever major league home run.
Don't tell me off of Nolan Ryan.
That's right.
First pitch.
His first
pitch.
Well, it wasn't the first pitch, but it was the first at bat.
Oh, I thought it was the first pitch.
The first pitch Nolan threw was a strike. He threw a curveball, which Nolan Ryan throwing a curveball, and Will Clark. There's a great shot of him stepping out of the batter's box, and here's this 22-year-old cocky kid. He's kind of laughing. He's going, "What is he doing? Throwing me a curveball?" So he said, "I bet she's going to throw me a fastball." And sure enough, he sat on that fastball and hit it over the center field fence, which is about a 420-foot shot.
It's just amazing. It's like one thing to know that a pitch is coming in. A guy can throw 100 miles an hour, but you still have to hit it.
Yeah, you still have to hit it. Not easy, especially if it's from Nolan Ryan. Has it got some movement on it? Yeah. Has it got, I mean, if you're a 22-year-old kid, you're facing a future Hall of Famer, what a way to break in. And Will Clark is not going to the Hall of Fame, but that's a Hall of Fame moment.
Yeah. I wonder why Nolan would throw a curveball.
I think Will said afterwards, he asked him about that, and he said Nolan, realizing that Will was this highly touted rookie and was probably going to expect a fastball and probably swing at it, thought he'd cross him up a little bit. And Will wasn't fooled. He thought, okay, that's what he's going to do. I think the next pitch is going to be a fastball.
Yeah, seriously, because I would have sat on a fastball.
Oh, yeah.
All right. What do we got here? Did we ask? We already asked our last trivia question, didn't we?
You did.
Wow. Yeah.
Do you want me to come up with one off the top of my head?
Sure. Because
Okay.
I don't know why I've got.
Okay.
How did this work?
Okay, here's the question. I got it right here, and I'll give you a hint. Rick Barry actually answered it. He didn't answer the question, but he gave the answer during our interview. How many teams in the NBA playoffs have come back from 3-1 deficits to win? How many teams? The Warriors are one of those teams that are facing those long odds. I think there's 232 teams that have faced a 3-1 deficit, and only a few teams have been able to come back. How many? That's the question.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I got to make sure that we got enough minutes here. I got to make sure that I did this correct on the clock, or else we're going to be messed up.
Well, you have to figure it out. You're the producer engineer. I'm just the.
There you go. I got to do two things at once here.
Just
But, hey, having Rick Barry on, that was
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
It's amazing how many ventures he's
Yeah,
gone into.
he's always had a lot of things going, a lot of irons in the fire.
He
Smart guy.
said he was missing a few zeros though from the paycheck.
Yeah. Well, you think about it. I mean, they made good money those days, better than average money than most people made. But still, Rick at the height of his powers, in the mid '70s, was probably making $300,000 a year, which was great money back in then. But still, compared to today, it's a pittance. So a lot of those players that he played with did not do well financially. They invested their money poorly. They spent their money, and I'm not saying most of them are doing poorly. I think most of them are probably doing pretty well. But it would have been easy to fritter that money away if you lived the kind of fast-paced lifestyle a lot of these athletes did. And Rick, because I think the fact he had 4 boys to raise, to help raise, that probably was something that kept him focused.
They had the 4 boys. Then he got divorced?
Then he got divorced. He was married a second time, had no kids with his second wife, and then his third wife he's been married to for about 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they've been together. His first wife was his college sweetheart, and it was just a couple of kids getting married at 19 or 20. So those things.
He still has 4 kids with her.
They did, and they stuck together for a while. But I mean, it's always tough when you marry really young because you change. When you're in your 40s, which Rick was when he met his last wife, actually it was late 40s. I think you pretty much what you see is what you get. So.
Wow, so he's
Rick is 72 now.
He's 72.
Hard to believe.
And his kid just graduated from college.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. He's actually finishing up at college. Finishing up, 22.
Not bad.
Yeah.
All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. When we come back, we're going to have some closing comments. This is the first time this has happened.
Were you looking at the clock? And you got
No, it's okay.
your segments are too long?
No. I mean, we've got the right, but I just don't understand how I did the trivia thing.
Well, you did. We had 2 trivia questions, right? And then I just did the third one.
No. I had the first one was Jerry West.
Right. Second one was
Venezuela.
Oh,
and
that's
the next
right.
One was, so
we had 3 segments already.
Yeah. So let me just put here.
Well, you had the first one right after the introduction. You had the second one after the first segment. You had the third one after the third segment, and you had the fourth one after the fourth segment. So this better be number. You'll figure it out.
This is the weirdest thing.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. You got a show. You just have to figure out how to.
Yeah,
I can't help you, Edward.
I know. I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Just eliminate one segment.
Well, that's what
you can't do that though because Rick's on it in the middle of it.
Well, then I mean,
what you could do maybe is we could say we could pretend to record a close and just say goodbye, at the end, and then you could cut it off right after Rick is off. You could probably do that. Find a spot where there was a convenient break. Can you do that? Do a little editing?
I may have to have some help from the boys upstairs.
No, that's okay. They could probably do it.
Oops.
Do you want to record a close?
Well, yeah, definitely.
Just to be safe. Yeah. Saw Vernon at the Sharks game last night.
Oh.
He was, as usual, shooting his own video.
Okay. All right, let's just do it.
Sure.
Here. I'll let you answer your own trivia question.
Oh, sure.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Now, Bruce, you asked a trivia question.
I did. The question was, how many NBA teams have come back from a 3-games-to-1 deficit in the playoffs? It could be in the first round, second round, or championship.
I'll say 9.
Very good.
Whoa.
That's exactly how many.
Could that be because Rick mentioned that
That's
earlier?
because, but some people might not have gotten it. And here's the deal: if the Warriors would do it, as we speak, they may have been eliminated. I mean, as we speak, when we're recording this, they were down 3-1. But when the show airs, they still may be alive. They may have been eliminated. If they do somehow pull it off, they would be the 10th team, which should be quite an accomplishment. And I think, in some respects, Edward, it would be probably as big a story for them to do that as winning 73 games, because no one expected them to be in this position, and then probably no one expected them to come back from 3-1 down. So
it kind of reminds me of the Giants in 2012, I think it was, where they just
they were down 2-0 twice.
Yeah.
They were down 2-0 to the Reds in the first
yeah.
round. They had to win
St.
3 in Cincinnati. They were down 3-1 to St. Louis in the championships. They won Game 5 there. Barry Zito pitched a great game, and then they blew them out in the last 2 games here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it happens.
Very cool.
It happens.
All right, so we've got some closing thoughts for the day here. Muhammad Ali said, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on Earth."
I like that.
I thought that's
Service to others is the rent you pay here on Earth. I like that.
Yeah.
I may use that.
I like what Bear Bryant said here, too. Once was asked to contribute $10 to help pay for a sports writer's funeral. And according to legend, he said, here's a 20, bury 2.
Oh, boy. Oh, man. I guess Bear Bryant didn't like those sports writers. I was thinking in Alabama, everybody was probably, in his back pocket, though.
One would think so.
Yeah, small college football back in, not small college, but college football in a rural area back in those days. The guys who covered the college football scene usually, in those days, were pretty much, the coaches' buddies.
And where did they get Crimson Tide from?
That is a good question. I have no idea. It's a great name, though, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, who else is the Crimson Tide? Nobody.
And it's not a bad enough name like Redskins or anything. It could be.
Well, it could be anything. It could be, it could be the tide coming in and it's red, or it could be, I don't know.
Or like, the storm. Remember,
I like that. Yeah, the red storm.
Red storm. Yeah, I like
Syracuse.
That too. All right. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and giving away more free vacations for answering.
Like those free vacations.
Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So,
all right.
Yeah, I'm going to have to figure this bad boy out.
Have you ever been to Angelic Hall over at Dominican? Where is it? Anyway,
Okay, so
to find, because that's where